she died. And I didn't even cry, not a single tear. So if you can expel that thought from your mind.
Music has always walked that razor-thin line between fiction and confession. For years, fans brushed off pop star D4vd's haunting lyrics as nothing more than creative metaphors, the kind of dark poetry artists lean on to spark emotion. But when Los Angeles police uncovered a crime that mirrored his songs almost word for word, those same verses transformed into chilling evidence, sounding less like art and more like a diary of guilt. On September 9th, 2025, workers at a Hollywood impound lot noticed a foul, stomach-turning odor seeping from a white Tesla Model 3. At first, they thought it was spoiled food or something left behind in the California heat. But when staff popped the front trunk, the nightmare revealed itself. Wrapped in layers of plastic already decomposing in silence lay human remains. Within hours, the LA County Medical Examiner confirmed the unthinkable. The body was 15-year-old Celeste Rivas, a teenager who had been missing for more than a year. Her disappearance had haunted her family and community, sparking endless searches, social media campaigns, and whispered rumors about what really happened. Now the truth had been stuffed into the front trunk of a luxury car, hidden in plain sight. That car was registered to none other than 20-year-old singer David Anthony Burke, known to the world simply as David. The same David who had stormed the charts with his viral anthem Romantic Homicide, a track dripping with heartbreak, obsession, and deathly imagery.
It doesn't feel real. I'm kind of in disbelief still. I don't know if it's a lot. It's just a lot.
With more than 33 million monthly Spotify listeners, his career had been climbing at lightning speed, making him one of the most talked about young artists in the industry. But in one horrifying night, everything flipped. The rising star who once dominated playlists was no longer trending for music. He was now the face of a homicide investigation. The Tesla had been sitting in an impound lot for just 2 days after it was abandoned in the winding roads of the Hollywood Hills, a place where expensive cars often get left behind. But this wasn't some routine tow. Forensics later confirmed that the body was already inside the vehicle before it was hauled away, meaning the grim secret had been quietly traveling through the city, hidden under everyone's noses. Despite the advanced state of decomposition, investigators moved quickly. DNA testing officially confirmed the worst. The remains belonged to 15-year-old Celeste Rivas. To lock it in further, forensic experts noted distinctive identifiers on her body, including a small tattoo on her finger that read, "Shh." The chilling part? David himself had the same tattoo, inked in the exact same style, fueling talk of a personal connection that was too close to ignore. As the case broke, Celeste's mother spoke through tears to reporters, revealing her daughter had a boyfriend named David. Almost instantly, social media lit up with screenshots, old messages, and photos that appeared to show interactions between them going back as far as 2022. If true, that meant Celeste would have been just 12 or 13 at the time, while David was already around 17. The allegations, though unverified, spread like wildfire online, pushing suspicion higher and placing David in the middle of a storm that could no longer be brushed off as rumor. The news hit the entertainment world like an earthquake. Within hours of the discovery, David's carefully built career began collapsing in real time. Concerts were canceled overnight, collaborations dissolved before press releases could even drop, and corporate partners scrambled to cut ties.
I went on my phone the next day, I was like, how to make music on iPhone. That was it. Apple earbuds, no mic, no headphones either.
Major brands like Crocs and Hollister, once proudly featuring his face in campaigns, pulled back immediately. Billboard even confirmed his Seattle tour stop was axed just days after the body was found, leaving fans stunned and ticket holders demanding refunds. But while the industry distanced itself, the internet went into overdrive. Amateur sleuths swarmed social media, combing through David's entire discography for hidden meaning. Lyrics that once felt like brooding teenage poetry suddenly read like red flags. His breakout hit Romantic Homicide, released in 2022, resurfaced everywhere, with fans replaying the words in disbelief. In the back of my mind, you died and I didn't even cry. In the back of my mind, I killed you. What was once brushed off as raw angst now felt chillingly literal.
So, romantic homicide. Dark, but also light at the same time, correct? Where does that come from? Because you're 17.
Word.
Have you been in love?
I don't know. I'm still trying to figure that out, to be honest.
A confession hiding in plain sight, ignored until tragedy forced a second listen. Then things escalated again. An unreleased track titled Celeste leaked online, allegedly recorded in late 2023. The lyrics sent shivers through listeners. Oh Celeste, the girl with my name tattooed on her chest, I'm obsessed. For many, that leak tied David directly to the victim in a way no one could deny. The parallels were too sharp, too specific. The internet lit up with theories, debates, and accusations as fans turned investigators pieced together a timeline through his music. Meanwhile, the LAPD confirmed what everyone already knew, that Celeste's body had been found in David's car. Yet officially, they stopped short of naming him a suspect. A spokesperson said he was fully cooperating with detectives, but to the public, cooperation wasn't enough to quiet suspicion. The storm around David was only growing louder, with every lyric and every leak adding fuel to a fire he couldn't put out. The sequence of events raises more questions than answers, and the timeline only deepens the mystery. April 2024, Celeste disappears from Lake Elsinore, California. Her mother files a missing person report almost immediately. But after a brief surge of community searches and online pleas, the case goes cold. No leads, no suspects, no trace of the 15-year-old girl. August 2025. While on tour, David files a stolen vehicle report claiming his white Tesla Model 3 had gone missing. At the time, it seemed like a routine theft in a city where luxury cars vanish all the time. But in hindsight, that report feels suspicious, like the first chess move in a much darker game. September 3rd, 2025, Los Angeles police towed the supposedly stolen Tesla after finding it abandoned in the Hollywood Hills. It's sent to a local impound lot, sitting quietly among other cars with no indication of the horror inside. September 8th to 9th, 2025. Workers at the lot notice a foul odor leaking from the vehicle. When they open the front trunk, the nightmare is revealed, human remains wrapped in plastic. Hours later, police confirm the body belongs to a female, later identified as Celeste. September 17th, 2025. ABC News breaks the confirmation nationwide. The remains are officially those of Celeste Rivas. The missing girl's story has come to a tragic end, but the gaps in this timeline are impossible to ignore. If David's car was stolen, who left it abandoned in the hills? Was Celeste's body placed inside before the alleged theft or afterward? And how did the Tesla sit unnoticed for days, parked in plain sight, with no one realizing it contained a decomposing body? Every unanswered question only intensifies the suspicion swirling around David, leaving the public to wonder, is he the mastermind, or is there another layer of truth still hidden? David's music catalog has now become the centerpiece of the investigation. What once launched him into stardom is now being replayed as potential evidence. His breakout hit Romantic Homicide earned millions of streams for its stripped-down production and brutally raw lyrics, but in hindsight, those same words sound less like poetry and more like a warning no one paid attention to. Fans can't unhear the chilling refrain that now feels like foreshadowing of real-life horror. The leaked track, Celeste, took suspicions even further. The very title tied his art directly to the victim, amplifying the claims made by Celeste's mother that her daughter had been romantically linked to David before her disappearance. Combined with unreleased snippets that surfaced online, the unease grew. One unfinished verse included lines like, "Smell her on my clothes like cigarettes. I hear her voice each time I take a breath." To casual listeners, it could pass as metaphor, but to many watching the case unfold, the lyrics connect uncomfortably close to Celeste's tragic fate, almost as if the music was documenting his obsession step by step. Social media poured gasoline on the fire. Viral posts began circulating claiming Romantic Homicide had been released on Celeste's birthday. Though outlets like the Hindustan Times later debunked this claim, it didn't matter. Public perception had already fused his art with the crime. The narrative online wasn't about coincidence anymore, it was about confirmation. Every lyric, every leak, and every rumor added to the growing belief that David's songs weren't just music, but confessions hidden in plain sight. Public opinion has now split into two fierce camps, each digging deeper into their stance. The accusers point to the evidence piling up, the Tesla registered in David's name, the eerie matching tattoos, the emotional testimony from Celeste's mother, and lyrics that sound more like diary entries than art. To them, none of this can be explained away as coincidence. It's a disturbing pattern that makes David look less like an artist and more like a suspect hiding in plain sight. The defenders, on the other hand, argue that the system hasn't officially charged him. They highlight that David filed a stolen car report months before the discovery, that he has fully cooperated with investigators, and that details could point to him being framed. Some even push the theory that Celeste's body was deliberately placed in his Tesla to destroy his career and reputation. This clash of narratives mirrors past high-profile celebrity scandals, where art and alleged crime became tangled together, forcing fans to decide whether they were consuming music or confessions. And then there's the Zach Sang interview, a piece of footage now dissected like evidence in court. Back in 2023, David sat down with the Zach Sang show and opened up about his creative process. He claimed he wasn't truly a singer at heart, but someone who stumbled into music while making background tracks for Fortnite. He said his lyrics came from imagined perspectives rather than his personal life. But when pressed about romantic homicide, David's answers turned murkier. He insisted the haunting lyrics weren't autobiographical, yet in the same breath admitted the track came from his own feelings of emotional numbness. Critics now point to this contradiction as deeply troubling. On one side, he denies any literal violence. On the other, he admits to a kind of cold indifference toward an imagined partner's death. That blurred line between metaphor and detachment has since become gasoline for speculation. For supporters, it proves he's just an artist misunderstood. For critics, it's exactly the slip that reveals his true mindset. Fallout has ripped David's career to shreds, leaving what once looked unstoppable now hanging by a thread. According to the New York Post, his streaming numbers collapsed by more than 40% in just days. Major brands tore up contracts overnight, deleting campaigns that once flaunted his face. Online, hashtags like hashtag Justice for Celeste and hashtag Cancel David dominated feeds, trending daily as fans turned into critics and critics into investigators. The very song that made him, a viral anthem called Romantic Homicide, is now being replayed under a darker lens. Once hailed as raw, relatable heartbreak, it's now dissected as possible evidence. TikTok montages pair his lyrics with grim headlines about Celeste, turning his own words into a haunting backdrop for tragedy. On Reddit, sprawling threads analyze everything from his music videos to his body language in old clips. YouTube breakdowns dig up past interviews, pausing frame by frame to spotlight contradictions in his statements. Journalists have stepped into the debate too, raising a sharper question. How did platforms like TikTok help push lyrics that romanticize death and detachment without anyone stopping to ask what it really meant? Back then, the track was celebrated as a soundtrack for teen heartbreak. Now it's held up as a cautionary tale, a reminder that art can take on entirely new meaning when viewed through the shadow of scandal. David's meteoric rise has been flipped into a textbook example of how quickly public perception can change. In the court of opinion, his music is no longer art, it's potential evidence, and every stream feels like another clue. David's case, as shocking as it feels, is not without precedent. The music industry has a grim history of artists whose personal lives spiraled into violence, often mirroring the same darkness found in their lyrics. Time and again, themes of obsession, control, and death in songs have coincided with real-world tragedies involving women close to them. Earl Hayes, 2014. The rapper murdered his wife, dancer Stephanie Mosley, before turning the gun on himself, reportedly while on FaceTime with boxer Floyd Mayweather, who later recounted the horrific moment. Jay Stash, 2022, shot his girlfriend, Jeanette Gallegos, in front of her 3 children before taking his own life, a case that rocked Los Angeles and left the public shaken. Ace NH, 2023. After being acquitted in 1 double homicide, he was charged just days later with murdering his pregnant girlfriend, Alana Sims, shocking a community that thought he had escaped the justice system once already. Suave Lyricist, 2023, charged with murdering his pregnant ex-girlfriend. Years after his ex-wife's suspicious death raised unanswered questions that suddenly resurfaced. Super MC, 2024, arrested for killing his girlfriend, Bria White, a domestic violence activist whose advocacy made her death especially haunting. Andre Pugh, 2014, convicted of arranging his wife's murder to collect on insurance money, a chilling mix of greed and betrayal. Big Lurch, 2002, convicted of a brutal killing while under the influence of PCP, one of the most disturbing cases in rap history. Though each case carries its own details, the pattern is hard to ignore. In artist after artist, the lines between performance and reality collapsed, and music filled with violent imagery became tied to real acts of destruction. David's case now sits in this dark lineage. One more reminder that sometimes the art isn't just art. If prosecutors managed to connect David directly to Celeste's death, the stakes couldn't be higher. Possible charges range from first-degree murder to sex crimes involving a minor. In California, premeditated murder alone carries 25 years to life, and if crimes against a minor are proven, the penalty can stretch even further. Life without parole with no chance of walking free again. The law in this state is unrelenting, and if the evidence sticks, David could spend the rest of his days behind bars. But even if charges never materialize, the damage to his reputation may be irreversible. In the entertainment industry, labels rarely reinstate artists once they've been tied to scandals of this magnitude. Endorsements dry up, collaborators disappear, and audiences often prove harsher than any courtroom jury. For a young star whose career once seemed unstoppable, the shadow now cast over his name may never lift. The unanswered questions still echo louder than ever. Who really killed Celeste? How and when was her body placed inside David's Tesla? Was David a calculating participant, or could he be the victim of a deliberate frame-up? Until the LAPD completes its investigation, the truth hangs in limbo. Yet in the court of public opinion, many have already reached their own verdict. The scales are tilted, and every rumor, lyric, and headline adds more weight against him. The once rising star who started out recording tracks in his sister's closet now risks being remembered not for his viral anthems, but for a tragedy that shocked the world and blurred the line between art and crime forever. So here we are, the line between music and reality shattered, leaving a story darker than any lyric David ever wrote. A missing girl, a luxury car hiding secrets, and songs that now feel like confessions instead of art. The truth? Still tangled. Maybe David is guilty. Maybe he's the victim of a frame-up too twisted for even Hollywood to script. Until the LAPD finishes its investigation, nobody can say for certain. But in the eyes of the public, the verdict may already be written, and that's a sentence no courtroom can reverse. Think about it. A career that skyrocketed from a bedroom studio to international stages now hangs by a thread. Every canceled show, every deleted brand deal, every lyric dissected like evidence. This is how fast the industry turns when art collides with scandal. But the biggest question remains, will David go down as a misunderstood artist caught in tragedy, or as another name in the long list of stars whose fame was swallowed by darkness? Drop your thoughts in the comments, hit like, and subscribe, because this story is far from over, and you won't want to miss what comes next.